Welcome. I'm Judy Jordan, the director of the Jean Baker Miller Training Institute, and I just want to welcome you here. It's a great turnout, a busy time of year for everybody to be here, but we're happy to have you. I see a lot of new faces to JBMTI, and we want to encourage you, if you're interested, to put your names on our email list so you can get mailings about future events. And there is a working paper that will be available for purchasing. That is the complete paper that Maureen and Christine have put together. So that will be available tonight if you're interested. This is a very special colloquium, getting to the truths about race, reflections on the politics of connection in the help. We're fortunate to have three extremely distinguished women here to lead us in this exploration, and we look forward to an active engagement with all of you as well. So I'm going to just quickly introduce all of these three people. I could spend the rest of the evening talking about their accomplishments and their achievements. I'm going to keep it brief. To my immediate left is Callie Crossley, who really needs no introduction, but I'm going to give her one anyway. She is the host and the executive editor of the Callie Crossley Show on WGBH, and she appears weekly on the WGBH shows Beat the Press, which I love, that title even alone, and Basic Black. She was a producer for Eyes on the Prize, America's Civil Rights Years, the critically acclaimed documentary series which earned her an Oscar nomination, and major film and journalism awards, including the Gold Baton of the DuPont Columbia Award, have I got that right? Which is like the Pulitzer Prize for broadcast journalism. She's a program manager of the very esteemed Nieman Foundation for Journalism at Harvard University. She is also, very importantly, a graduate of Wellesley College. So we are very honored to have her with us this evening, and thank you for joining us. On her left is Dr. Maureen Walker, who's the Director of Program Development at the Jean Baker Miller Institute of the Wellesley Centers for Women. She is also the Associate Director of Support Services at the Harvard Business School and a very valued member of our core faculty at JBMTI. Maureen is the author of several works in progress, including When Racism Gets Personal, Toward Relational Healing, and Race, Self, and Society, Relational Challenges in a Culture of Disconnection. She's the co-editor of The Complexity of Connection and How Connections Heal, and she is a very sought-after speaker on topics of power, societal stratification, race, relational leadership, relational cultural theory. So we are very happy to have Maureen joining us to lead this discussion with Callie and Chris. Christina Robb at the far end is our writer in residence at the Jean Baker Miller Institute and keeping us all on our toes and encouraging us to write. She's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist whose passion for social change is matched by her ability to articulate complex socio-political and psychological issues with enormous clarity. Her book, This Changes Everything, brilliantly presents the history and core ideas of the relational revolution in psychology. So I'm going to turn the evening over to Callie, who is going to moderate and get us going and keep us going and in her wonderful way. So thank you all for being here, and thank the three of you for leading us in this.
Well, good evening, and I'm glad to be here. I can't tell if this is on. I think it is. We are going to first hear from each of our writers, and then afterwards we're going to engage in a little bit of conversation, the three of us up here, which I'm going to try to keep very brief so that we can really have a dialogue in the entire room. So just know that what we're doing up here is just setting the table for the kinds of questions and responses and reactions that you may have later on. So first up to the mic, Maureen.
large notebook here, but I promise you it's not that long. Okay. And I want to start just by thanking you. It's personally very gratifying to me that we are here together tonight to just explore possibilities about a new conversation about race. So I'll start with the question, what do you do when someone that you respect or love raises a topic and you just don't want to go there? Probably like many of you, I remember when I first heard about the help. I was sitting in Starbucks with a valued colleague, a white woman in her 40s, and she started describing an amazing novel that her book club had just read. And after she told me about it a bit, she stopped herself short and said, well, perhaps you wouldn't like it so much. I had to respond somehow. But in that exact moment, I had absolutely no desire for any conversation about race, new or otherwise. My immediate impulse was just to get out of the coffee shop as quickly as I could, and so I spent the next few months just backing away from that conversation. If I saw someone who even looked as if they wanted to talk about the book, I would just start saying random things about like popsicles or, wagon wheels, anything. But everywhere I went, the conversation actually seemed to follow, and I mean that quite literally. I knew there was no escaping it when I would see women reading the book, bumping into lampposts, bumping into me as they tried to navigate sidewalks in Cambridge. And I was not alone in my avoidance. As a culture, we are not known for running toward conversations about race. And in a culture with still festering racial wounds, I was frankly suspicious of a book that had such wide popular appeal. And of course, it was inevitable that the movie would follow. And I found myself recalling a comment that went something like, the state of race relations in this culture is such that black people and white people can walk into the same theater, sit there at the same time, and walk out having seen a very different movie. Since there was no way to really continue running from the book, I decided to turn to my friend Christina, and we turned to each other, and then we turned to you and asked for your help as we read the book together. Now, in our very unscientific foray into public opinion research, we did encounter some widely varying responses, some of which seemed to trend along racial lines. What some white women called inspiring, many black women called insulting. We also discovered some profound unpredictability along racial lines. A Bronx-raised African-American woman in her 20s blogged about the beauty and dignity of the maids in the movie. And a white woman from Alabama in her 40s described the movie as a sickening reminder of growing up with a beloved grandmother who was also a proud member of the Daughters of the Confederacy. She said it was like reading words directly out of her mouth. Now, what was most evident is that people shared a powerful emotional experience across race, across gender, and across generations. Here, at the Jean Baker Miller Institute, we think it's really important to talk about this book because Catherine Stockett has written a captivating tale with all of the elements that satiate our cultural imaginations. There's very little ambiguity to trouble our minds. There are good girls, there are mean girls, and a cast of very colorful characters, all of whom serve to accentuate the spunky heroics of the good girl. And everyone gets her just desserts, so to speak. The spunky girl gets a dream job. The colorful characters get a little extra pocket money. And the mean girl is left with a really bad taste in her mouth. Now, the author said that she wrote this story because in the aftermath of 9/11, she found herself remembering her beloved childhood maid, the sweet confections the maid would bake, as well as the puzzling injustices the maid experienced at the hands of the adults in the household. And I believe her. People seek comfort food in times of cultural stress. But mere sentimentality is no substitute for genuine empathy. Mere sentimentality induces us to tell stories that serve and protect our egos, those fragile and fractured self-images generated in large part by a racially scarred culture. Mere sentimentality induces us to tell stories with neat and tidy endings, and these are stories that hold us to a very static understanding of our lives. They are antithetical to genuine empathy, authentic voice, and sustainable growth and connection. Here at this institute, we develop and promote the relational cultural model of mental health and healing. And there are two premises that are relevant for our work here tonight. The first is that we come to know who we are through our encounters with difference in relationship. And when we say encounters with difference, we are talking about an incarnational experience. Difference in its physical, cultural, and emotional embodiment. We're not talking about abstract aspirations toward diversity. To the extent that we avoid embodied encounters, we preempt opportunities to know who we are and who we might become.